So, good week. Okay, this year is dedicated to Rachalei Avas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Here we're continuing in Malot HaTorah. So we were quoting various psukim in Midrashim last time that talk about the instructions that Hashem gave us towards learning Torah as a mitzvah, and then some statements that we have about the effect of Torah upon us and the way that we're meant to approach it. So we're going on in this. Al Kain Zachor Es Karenu Od Vazachira Hi Bracha. It says that Midei Dabri Bo, when a person talks on it, meaning the Torah, that awakens Hashem's memory, which is the bracha. So the author says this matter of the concept of memory being bracha and speech being Torah is something he spoke about elsewhere. Ha'ech al yedei ha'Torah she'adam osek ba mekayem kol ha'olamot u'baraya al min chadatin. When a person is busy with Torah, he keeps all of the worlds going and he makes new worlds. Ki al yedei ha'Torah nivra ha'kol, because the Torah is the source of everything's continued creation. As it says, B'dvar Hashem, and the end of the pasuk is Shemayim Nasu. So what that means is that the world's present existence is something dynamic. In other words, the world isn't just here because it's here because it's here. It's here because Hashem's word, which means the expression of His will, is that it be here every moment. So the word Dvar Hashem, which means Hashem's word or Hashem's will, is also used for Torah. Meaning when a person learns Torah, because they're unfolding the map, so Hashem's commitment to there being a place that's being mapped out happens. So if a person studies Torah in this world, so to speak, Hashem above is also studying Torah, meaning He's renewing His plan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer, Halacha b'shem basar v'dam. So it says in Yalkut that Hashem says halachas in the name of humans. Eliezer b'ni Omer para bat shtayim, meaning he'll quote a halacha in the name of whichever human said it. Eliezer, my son, said that a para is an animal that's 2 years old, for instance. V'hu be'et sh'adam osek ba lemata, when a person is busy with it down here. So what does that mean? So what that means on a deep level is that Hashem's creativity is sparked by His observing humans interpreting this map. Kama she'amru b'perek ha'madigitin, eshkechei Rav Avyaser le'Eliyahu, amar le v'ma asik hu tshabrichu, as it says, once Rav Avyaser found Eliyahu, and Eliyahu Navi said to him, "What's Hashem busy doing?" Amar le b'pilegesh b'giva, and he answered him, he's reading the chapter concerning this concubine who was abducted in Giva, which is part of Navi. Harei shebe'et she'asak Rabbi Avyaser v'Rabbi Yochanan b'farsha zu lemata, az asak ve'akadosh baruch hu lemala. Meaning, when they were studying that very same episode down here, that's what Hashem was busy with above. Now he's going to explain this in greater depth. The Torah is Hashem's essential communication. So what does the words essential communication mean? So I'll give you an example of what this is. If we were to take Avram's life and put it down to one word, it would be yes. He was a person of affirmation. He was a person of commitment. So what's being expressed through that word is his whole essential self. Not just one episode of who he was, or not just what he would be in the end, but what was the core of his life all along. So similarly, Hashem's will, which is His speech, is Torah. This is what Hashem wanted all along. It's His picture of reality. Shehu b'vchinas hakavot ha'otiyot v'im hakavot kishrei ma'orot ha'elyonim v'shav'o yitbarach ponel l'nivraim k'fi she'esek b'chidushei Torah shemechadshim b'chol yom. So he says that when a person puts together the letters of Torah, it's analogous to what? Hashem creating light from above, giving some illumination from His own presence, and giving it form, which is what letters are. So, let's understand this more concretely. If you want to write, you can't leave the page white. You have to take dark letters, or that create contrast. So something is covered up, and that's what makes the writing visible. Some of the white is covered. So if you were to see the white as an allegory for Hashem's unknowable light, and the letters of halacha, or of any part of Torah, being like actual letters that cover up some of that white and give us something to focus upon, then we understand how the Torah is the expression of Hashem's will, meaning it contains Hashem's will. It makes it smaller, more observable, so it has something to do with us. So when a person says a chiddush in Torah, what's a chiddush? It doesn't mean making up Torah. It doesn't mean like, oh, if the Torah says there were 6 days of creation, I'll make up that there were 10. No, a chiddush is an original insight. You say, aha, this is how it really works. Aha, this is how these seemingly contradictory passages really complete each other. So the insights are endless. The possibility of insights into Torah are endless. But whenever a person says a chiddush that's real, so in the higher worlds also it brings about a chiddush, new light, light that was never revealed. V'em shamayim chadashim shenaseh tamid k'mo shenemar ki kasher hashamayim hachadashim. So this is what's referred to in the books of prophecy as new shamayim. It says, I'll give you new shamayim, aretz chadasha, new earth. So if you have a person whose involvement in Torah is such that they really look at those letters and bring them into their lives, so that person is a partner with Hashem's creativity. Kasher chas v'chalila Yisrael poskim in Torah, but the opposite, if chas v'shalom we don't do Torah, as kiv'yachol HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoshev v'domem, it's as though Hashem is silent. Why? Because the rule with which He created the universe is that He responds to us. There has to be an awakening from below to draw down an awakening from above. So it means when a person learns Torah, then Hashem's will is reenacted. V'hu kivyachol avel, and it's as though when there is no Torah, it's as though He's mourning. So let's understand what that phrase means, Hashem's mourning. What does mourning mean in general? Mourning and depression or sadness are not the same thing. Mourning means feeling the pain of emptiness or lack. Depression has to do with being, not it's missing, but I'm unable. So depression or sadness is about self, while mourning is about lack. Hashem isn't missing any self. When it says He mourns, He created a world for a purpose, and that purpose is lacking. Just as a person would say, how does a mourner conduct himself? So the Torah is Hashem's delight, and it's His play object for the whole day. What does that mean? So it means the fact that all of the billions and billions, unknowable billions of pieces to this puzzle, Hashem could see it all fitting together, and this is what motivates Him to give continually. V'hadra chas v'shalom, Shabbat kol ha-simcha, but when you don't have this, then there's no simcha. There's no sense of the completed act, the spiritual fulfillment, except through Torah. V'az Yisrael nishkachim hem chas v'shalom meito yitbarach, and again, if we learn nothing, it's as though we're forgotten. Ki yikar ha'chayusam toli b'Torah, because their main vitality, meaning the main capacity of Israel to live, comes through the Torah. So what that would mean, as a people, we're considered to be like a dead people if Torah isn't amongst us. So I want you to realize the implications of what we just read. Picture something that people describe as being lively. The Mardi Gras in New Orleans, 42nd Street on New Year's Eve. Okay, so what we would say as Jews is that those things are dead. They're dead spiritually. They're not moving anywhere. Okay, conversely, when you have people doing what Hashem wants, they're leading their will and His, so they're headed towards life. So the main vitality that we have depends on Torah. V'od amar hanavi, haben yakir li Ephraim, im yeled shashuim. I've endeared my son Ephraim, or more correctly, he's dear to me, as I confront this child with his play objects. Be'et she'adam ke mishtashe b'torato yitbarach b'frat tinokot shel bet rabban ki'asa midei davribo. So now he's taking us to a specific area. So everything we said would be true of anybody who learns. Anybody who learns is doing what we just said. They're bringing shefa into the world. They're bringing the potential for simcha into the world. But if the person who's learning is a child, it's much greater. Okay, if the person who's learning is a child who's going to school, okay, nothing delights Hashem more than that. Shuyit barach kiv'yachol midei medaber b'fiv haTorah ha'osek ba. It's as though Hashem is speaking through the Torah. Al yedei zeh zochores karenu od, and through that there's the memory that comes forth. Al ken hamo me'aylo, and therefore Hashem yearns for this person. Ki ikar harachamim b'me'ayim, when it says my innards pity you, which is not an English bitoy. Okay, so when we feel pity, we feel it in our gut. Kamoshe katuv b'Zohar Kodesh ma'ohi badat etkanu v'hem Yisrael ha'amusim mini beten v'atar shivim panim v'chamishim sharibina u'lechen v'achem rachamenen l'am Hashem. So it's quoting the Vilna Gaon here. It's not what the Vilna Gaon is saying here is not easy. I'm not completely sure I got it. But what he says is that the main mercy a mother feels is towards her own womb. As we've said already, quoting the Zohar, that it's good for us to take in. It's a good thing to do to take in these ideas and to make them one's own. Okay, and to feel it. And when we feel it, when it's in our gut, then all the gates open. Okay, so that means that the Torah is full. We should be full of Torah like our stomachs are full of food. And it's through that process that the 70 faces of Torah, the 50 gates of wisdom, converge. Okay, so now we said that the Zechira is more than just remembering, but it's drawing down this bracha. Hashem Zacharani Yivarach, we say this in Hallel. Hashem, remember us. He shall be blessed. Sha'al al yidei Zechira, so Zachar otanu Hashem, so that through the memory that Hashem remembers us, anu zachim l'chal habrachot. This is what opens the door for all of the blessings. V'gam al yidei Zechira anu nitolim mikol tzarot. And not only that, but we're rescued from all sorts of suffering, when we come in a klipot, and from all sorts of external coverings. So there are more things that Torah does for us than dveikus. Could make us whole and real. Okay, so we're rescued then from all of the things that keep us from being ourselves. You're remembered before Hashem, and you're saved from your enemies. Okay, so the main thing Hashem remembers is the merit of the Torah. So we find that the word Zechira is used with Hashem remembering the merit of Israel when a shofar would be blown at the time of the Korbanos. He remembered who we could be. Who could we be, and why should blowing shofar remind him of who we could be? What we could be is connected. Every Jew could be connected. The only way that we connect in a way that's absolute is through the Torah itself, because without the Torah there are no mitzvot. So if people are connected in that way, it draws down enormous merit. The merit is the merit of connection. Okay, so we're skipping over a little bit in terms of the various mitzvot that a person does when they keep Torah. And we're going to go to a place in which we're going to see more about not only the effect of Torah, but what makes it happen, what makes it grow. Okay. Alzeh Amar ki kasher yiret hageshem v'sheleg ben hashamayim v'chulei v'lida hatzmicha. It says that Hashem's commitment to keeping the messianic promises are binding. If you want to know how long are they binding, they're binding until they happen. In other words, until the actualization of the messianic promises are there. Okay. So the more a person thinks about Torah, the more he necessarily is distant from the fleeting thoughts of this world. And that's what paves the way for what we'll call Holidat U'Tzmicha, the birth of a whole new era. It says three things. Now let's listen to these three things. Here is his proof pasuk. Kasher yevet hageshem v'hasheleg min hashamayim bolida v'hatzmicha. It says in Yeshaya that when the rains and the snow come down from the heavens, then there's birth, then there's growth. Okay, ki kasher yerad kim harva ta'aretz v'holida v'tzmicha. Okay, so the first thing is if we satiate the earth with water, the second thing is it gives birth, and the third thing is that it creates growth. That's because rain does three things one after the other. Okay, so the first step that you need rain for is that it softens the field so that people could plow and then plant seeds. The next step is that after the seeds are planted, you need rain in order for the plants to be strong enough to get burst forth from the cover of the dirt. Finally, you need rain also to make the fruit grow. So you have three things that it does. Okay, so the same process is true with Torah mitzvahs. So there's rain number one. A child who's born is compared to a wild city. Every child is like Dodge City. I don't know if any of you ever saw Westerns. No law. You can't tell a 10-month-old what to do. I mean, you could tell him, it's not going to do any good. So, a child starts out with Yetzer Hara. Okay. Umisham shtei kochot shel Yetzer Hara, shtei benot lot, and the Yetzer Hara with which the child is born, okay, manifests itself in two ways, which are symbolized by the two daughters of Lot. Echad hatayva ba mikoach tipat ta'av, asher b'koach hatayva, v'kasani mitipat imo mechamim atam v'nidata, ken isha mit'aberet el samuch levesta. So he's saying that the two kinds of Yetzer Hara, the two daughters of Lot within us, come from two different sources. Okay, so one of the Benos Lot is Taiva. We're all created with Taiva. Now, Taiva is different than appetite. Appetite has to do with this, that we lack food, we need to survive, so we want to eat. Taiva is when you want to eat because it's there, because it's delicious, because you have nothing else to do, because it solves the nobody loves me problem. So children have that to begin with. And the root of that is the semen of the father who did the sex act, as by the nature of things has to be, as a consequence of desire. V'kasani mitipati mo mechamim adam nidata ki anisha mitaberet el atzmu flavesta. The power of anger, which every baby has from day one, I want it this way. This comes from the mother. Okay, it comes from the passion that's symbolized by and concealed in the blood of Nida, which it says that a woman usually will conceive near the time of her period. So this is why these two forces are there to begin with. Now these powers are the two fires of the word Ish and Isha. So the word Ish and Isha have two letters that are different, Yud and Hey, which I'm sure you've heard spoken about many times at Sheva Brachas. But Eish, there are also two kinds of fire. The fire of passion and desire, and the fire of anger. So all humans have the potential for that fire. So we're born like that. We're born like that. Kasher avivimo devukim batar umitkatshim v'zivugam as shchina beinehem v'hem ba'isha yud ba'isha zeheh. If the person is educated by their parents or someone else, and the person who's bringing them up lives a holy life, then there's Shekhinah between them, and this is what the child grows up seeing. Okay, so a child, to overcome what's analogous, remember the parable was rain on the barren field. For a child to work past the barren field, that's the base personality, what they call the id, the two fires, desire and anger. So for them to work through that, notice I didn't say get rid of it because there's no reason to. We're here to work through it. So the Torah is going to, that the parents know, could be their source of knowing how to help their child. So to understand this better, imagine a parent today going to a psychologist saying that the child is too compulsive, that they eat whatever they see, for instance, even if it's on someone else's plate. Or that they have a rage problem. If they don't get their way, they rage. So what will a psychologist do? Many of you have seen a psychologist over the course of your lives. What would a psychologist do? So what a psychologist could do is make the child understand why they're angry and what they desire. But you know what a psychologist can't do? A psychologist can't tell the child where to put the anger and where to put the desire, because he doesn't know. That's what you need Torah for. V'hei chumashim came bechlal ufrat kiyadua, she tipat alav sham kol ha'evarim bechlal uvakoach. Va'isha mitzayeret otam bepratut. Okay, so he says that the whole Torah, okay, has general ideas and then details. So he says that the force of the father, okay, is what gives strength to the child. And it's the mother's ability to center on things and to contain that gives the child the ability to have awareness in a way that's specific. Kol HaTorah nichlalan b'tarach otiot uva'aseret hadibrot. The whole Torah is composed of 620 letters, okay, which are in the Aseret Hadibrot. And they are explained in detail throughout the 5 Chumashim. So the parents at the time they're together have in mind that they want to live lives in which both the general picture and the particular picture are in accordance with Hashem's will. then their fire is going to be the fire of the yud of the man. The passion is directed towards Torah. The hay of the woman, she's uplifting physicality with all of the framework of the halachot as should be in this world. So let's review what we have now to concretize it. So we're saying at this point that the Torah irrigates the earth, meaning the same way the earth needs water, which Torah is compared to at the beginning before you could plow. It's too hard to plow otherwise, too dusty. A child, before they could make their own decisions, before they could be truly human, in the fullest sense of the word, before that there has to be rain. The parents have to provide an atmosphere that's right for growth of a child. So what kind of atmosphere is this? So he told us that the barren desert isn't really so barren. There are two benos lot there. And who were they? Anger and desire. All children are born with this. So you have to put rain on that barren ground. The rain you put on is the Torah. So he said, as you recall, that you could look at things from the general picture and then go into details, which is how we should learn Torah. So a young child, even if they aren't in a place intellectually where they can grasp all the details, they definitely should know the general picture. Why? How does that affect them? How does knowing Mishnah, which, so many things there are totally irrelevant to life, or Gemara, how could you say this is taking me to the place of refinement? So the answer, in the light of what we just said, is not only could it take you to the place of refinement, but it's the only thing that could possibly take you to the house of refinement. Why? Because the fact that we do certain activities not in the presence of other people reflects that we don't see them as channeled and complete and perfect because we're not perfect. But in theory, before the sin in the Garden of Eden, people could have, and certainly a child has no body shame. Why? Not because they're so good, as was the case of Adam Harishon, but because they're so limited. So your job as a parent of young children is to what? Teach them the skills to get beyond their limitations. So that's different than punishing them for having limitations. Teach them the skill. So when you're working together in this way, and when the time the couple is together mamish, they should think about having a child who fits the image. Okay, you see where we are. One moment. ניתן ניצות אור תורה בבלד וגורם לו שנולד בקדושה וטהרה, וכן אחר שהגיע לחנות לבית הספר אז צריכים למספרי אלי כתורה, ועל ידי זה משברים כוח יתרו. כי בית הכוחות הנזכרות לאל לכבות שני אשות איש ואישה שבו, ועל ידי זה נחרש לוח ליבו, אשר בתחיל הוא קשה כאבן. So what's going to happen now? You have to break the force of the Yetzer Hara by enacting this aspect of self that's called the adult, the person who comes by. So until you do that, your heart could feel like a stone. But if you do that, if you have a climate of inner rebuke and higher consciousness, then you could move past this first step. V'im even huni moach, and if it's a stone, if impediments are stones, so melt them down. Imayim b'Torah, v'udomeh l'geshem, marve et ha'aretz kodem hazriya. Now we're up to the next step. So this is like, and we're saying by way of conclusion, the person who has a tree and they put water by it before it has to be plowed. Shuchal kulam l'kabel mitocham b'zvisot. So what's the purpose of this? The purpose is so that the child will be able to accept what you have to offer with zrizus, with enthusiasm. Okay, so let's look at two scenarios. One scenario is you take a kid to the emergency room with you and say, hey, they need volunteers to give water and tea to the people here. Will the kid do it? Sure, because the emergency room is high drama. If you say, could you go over to Mrs. Baumgarten and help her fold laundry, doesn't do it. Okay, so the reason is that we have the other kind of water also. This is the water of inspiration when we feel more towards Ahava and Yira. So that's the next kind of water that has to fall. After you get past the remorse, the savings of oneself, then you're ready for the next step. Shabatchili lomdemi imo torish tivalanu bichlal hu yafesh garin k'mo hagarin. So the next step, which is watering the child's consciousness, comes when the child is somewhat older, when you expose them to actual Torah. And then the child becomes like the seed, who, as we said before, its fulmination is predictable. So take this idea and make it simpler. The second stage, how do you know what school to send your kid to? So look at what the purpose of education is, and that will tell you. So the purpose of the educational institution is to have your child bear fruit. So it means that the Torah has to be given in a way that relates to your child. Now let's say there isn't such a place, as is very possible. If there's no such place, then it's no big deal. You just go on in your own way. But you have to aim towards this. You have to aim towards making your child fertile ground. You have to aim towards finding a school where his particular form of Yetzer Hara will be conquered, and a place where his particular form of Yetzer Tov could be given expression. And if there isn't a school like that, you're ready, you have to do it yourself. כי באותו נשרש בארץ קודם צאתו לחוץ הוא כמו העיבור שהוולד הוא בבטן אמו וכך היא הלידה וכן הוא בתורה שבעל פה שלומדים עמו בין 10 למשנה. At some time, part of the education has to be moved to Torah Shebal Peh. It says Ben 10 l'Mishnah. Why? Because we're up to the next stage of development. So after you have the water to soften the ground so the child's not full of anger and ego exclusively, and you've given the child direction for their properties, the next step is to make it possible for them to be strong enough to grow. Because again, the seeds have to fight their way out of the earth. So how do you do that? So what you have to do that is the child has to know Torah Shebal Peh, the details of mitzvot, the reasoning behind the mitzvot, using their own words, not just the words of Chumash. So through that, the child's desire and for linkage with God becomes progressively stronger, whether or not, and this is a very important thing for you to know, whether or not the parents consciously are trying to give them God awareness. In other words, learning God's will, even if you don't use the word God, will also give them awareness, or at least Yirat Shamayim. Keshi mevaret prete ha-mitzvahs. The Mishnah tells you the details. Va'az nishlamem midotav shelo liyot nar meshulach lasot ma shelibo chafetz. So then the child reaches a point where he develops into a good human being. But at any rate, you have to see that your child is not like a child who is thrown out of the house because he's doing whatever his heart wants, which I'm sure you know what this is about. So when you have a child who's not given direction, who nobody thought about giving them direction, they just thought that it'll somehow happen through breathing the air, they're going to end up with a child who's at odds with himself because he doesn't know the skill of moving aside the limited part of himself and finding the higher part. Ella mimei yalduto matchil naheg al pi Torah v'olech b'derech yesharim v'hi aleida shemitgalim midotav hatovim shebo b'chutz l'manhig al pi darkei Torah. So then you have what's analogous to birth, which is now the person is a finished product. So how to get them to move into being a finished product is unclear. But now they're a finished product, and there's something there. So where do they get their sense of the something they could grow into? Who does it come through primarily? So the primary role maker in Yerushalayim today is, of course, the parents of the children. You can't rely on the schools to do this. The schools are too big to do this. It's impossible for them to do this. The parents have to do this. The parents have to discover the child's midos and give them direction. Chanoch lenar al pi darko, you have to educate a child according to his way. Gam ki askin, even if he gets older. V'yachash nitgadel, asu mechadesh mosif tzitzim u'prachim l'Torah. And when the child grows up really, his yearning for love, his love of learning, and all children who grow up right love learning, one more, one less, one this field, one that field. Okay, they'll still want to add carnations and flowers to the Torah. What does that mean? Their own chidushim. So already at a young age, children know that the Torah is the key to their own development and to their own self-expression. So with this in mind, there are two kinds of mothers. There are mothers who see the Torah as a little compartment in life. There's a subject called Torah in school, even if that subject takes 8 hours a day, but it's a subject in school. It has nothing to do with what? With life. So because of this, she trains the child in everything other than Torah, because those are the things that are necessary to get by in life by her definition of life. So that would mean if the child woman were to switch out of boots, I'd be in big trouble unless I could find shoes that match what I'm wearing. So the whole concept here of being able to have ambitions that are spiritual for your children is what good parenting is about. So being spiritually ambitious doesn't mean recreating the child in your own image, but it does mean finding his or her strengths and giving them voice. And those are the tzitzis and the prachim that are there in the Torah. Now his idea here, and again there are people who speak more softly, is you also have to both have and teach how to make fences and gates around the Torah if you're going to have Kedusha. So this whole parental thing that you sometimes hear, I trust my child, therefore I could expose him to temptation, isn't right. It's not even true for ourselves. For ourselves, if we care about retaining the Torah we have to protect ourselves from foreign influence. Magdil marchiv kol midah tova yoter v'yoter. But the bottom line is, if you have to drive out evil through doing good, so you should do countless acts of chesed every day. Volech mi madrega l'madrega. And this is the path through which a person can go from one stage to another stage. V'yalzeh hatzmicha. And that's called growth. So growth by definition has to include the entire self. It has to include every aspect of the self. Nothing could be left behind. Nothing could be left for the Yetzer Hara. Okay, so all these kochot are there. Shayu klulim betechila b'shorshei k'mo shabablul hakol b'garinim shel hapri. And it was all there in the trees, seeds, and certainly there in the early tree itself. Holchim u'mitgalim yoter migilui legilui ad shemigil letachlis shlemuto. V'chol zehu al yidei Torah ha'osek ba v'chol et. So he says, and you continue in your life bringing yourself into higher and sweeter revelations if the husband learns all day. Do I hear a question? So there should be two questions. One is, what if there's no husband at all? Another is, what if he doesn't learn all day? So the idea there is that a person's shleimus has to do with allegiance to Torah. So ideally it's with a man learning himself and his wife gaining his merit because they're partners. So she could be the silent partner. Okay, but the other is what if there is no husband? Then the person would have to look at their own possibilities and actualities and move with them. Also at times it's worth having role models of people who did that. V'zeh shenemar ken yeh dvarai asher yitzei mipi lo yeshuv elai rekam ki maset asher chafatzta. Okay, so Hashem says, this is how it is. That which comes forth from my mouth, I don't return, meaning I don't change my mind. Okay, because we know that whatever Hashem does, He wants it this way. So here's where faith comes in. Faith comes in saying that there's stuff I can't interpret here. Not just not now, but not ever. And you could let go and see it's part of a greater plan. So when a person finishes what they have to know in order to perform their work in the world, this is what's meant when it says that there was hatzlacha where you were sent. So it means the adult version of chinuch is that as an adult you have to find the outlets to express Torah as a person. So for one person that'll be through chesed, for another person it'll be through learning or teaching, for another person it'll be through tefillah, for another person it'll be through hakpeda and beautiful hakpeda on mitzvahs ben adam lachavero. Whatever it is. But there has to be a place where, again, and what are the two bad roots? The taivas and the anger have to somehow be weakened through what you're doing. If not, either you're doing the wrong thing, or not doing it well, or not addressing it to your inner life. Because that's the promise of how Torah is meant to affect you. The Torah is meant to develop every possible good midah that a person has. But that's on a condition. The condition is if you do it. So what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that a classical mashal from the Kuzari, people will sometimes say, I know people who do mitzvot and they have little spiritual value. They do this, they do that, and sometimes it's true. So his answering parable is as follows. Once there was a baker, and the baker had a recipe for one of these like fancy cakes, 11-layer cake with 5 different kinds of cream and nuts and this and the other. And he gave the recipe to his wife, and his wife looked at the recipe. It had like 48 ingredients, and said, I'll simplify. So she left out the walnuts. Okay, so the walnuts won't be there, the roasted walnuts won't be there, the chocolate mix, no. And she says, if I'm already leaving out the walnuts, maybe I should leave out the almonds as well, so it just won't be like that nutty. It'll have a good flavor, but not a nut flavor. There's still all these ingredients. So she left out the little taste of vermouth that's supposed to be in the batter. She left out the coloring. She left out the extra egg white, because what's she going to do with the yolk? And in the end she made a cake that had 12 ingredients. Didn't taste good. Didn't taste good compared to what? Compared to the cake that her husband made in the bakery. Tasted good compared to a cake. So what's this telling us? The results are dependent on the details. So if you do Torah without perfection, then the result you get isn't perfect. But you get a result that's beautiful and good. But suppose she would then give her 12-ingredient recipe to her teenage daughter, who looks like 12 ingredients. I can't do this. Like most cakes have 8 ingredients, 6 ingredients, like 12. That's too much. I can't be bothered. So what she gets is a cake that's an edible cake, but it's not like her mom's cake. And she gives it to her 6-year-old sister and says, want to make cakey? Here it is. And she made it simple for her until it's a 5-ingredient cake that doesn't even taste good. So what happens is that there's a process of self-selection with learning Torah and with keeping Torah. We tend to not want to know that which interests us the least, which is normal. But those areas are often don't interest us because they're quote not relevant. Why? Because they're the areas of our personality that we're not in touch with to begin with. So a person, for instance, who's immature, let's say I'll give you a conventional definition of maturity: the ability to set goals and make the steps to reach those goals. A person who's immature wants to be there without the steps. So that's the kind of person who will want to, let's say, have the dveikus of tefillah without davening, if you know what I mean. Or you could have a different kind of a person who basically is self-absorbed. And by self-absorbed, what I mean is that they're insensitive and don't notice the effect that they have on other people. So by the nature of things, they're not going to want to be mahader in the mitzvahs ben adam l'chavero. They'll be drawn to the mitzvahs ben adam l'makom because they all have to do with the self finding dveikus in Hashem. But they're going to be stunted. So the bottom line is, if you want the Torah to work, to take out the ta'avuni and the kasuni, the ego, which is the ka'as, and the coarseness and vulgarity, which is the taiva, then you have to have broad Torah that encompasses the whole person, and to not pick and choose. Now, on the other hand, as we learned already, you have to learn mashali bo chafetz, what your heart yearns for. So there's a difference between what you learn in terms of inspiration and what you learn in terms of practicality. To get the result of Torah, you have to know everything on a practical level. To be inspired, you have to know what your heart wants. So that's it for right now. Have a good week.